Part 10 Chapter 10 We have mentioned the inquirer before. The inquirer is someone who wants to communicate with the soul not in a physical body. If we have made known that we are willing to conduct the afterlife healing circle, and a possible inquirer contacts us, then it's up to us to establish whether the inquirer has a legitimate need. This is the time for a conversation and some gentle questions. Inquirers are often very emotional and want to disclose all they know about the beloved departed. Do not allow this. Instead, at the outset, explain that in order for the afterlife healing circle to work, the inquirer must not divulge any details about the soul in question, the deceased person whom the inquirer wishes to contact. This respects the left brain's need for specific evidence, as we will explain shortly. Questions that we do want to ask include: 1. What do you want to get out of the afterlife healing circle? 2. Did you have a personal relationship with the deceased? 3. Have you felt or sensed this person's presence around you? 4. Has this person been on your mind or in your thoughts a lot lately? 5. When did this person pass over? Be sure to ask the last question because in instances of a very recent traumatic death or suicide, the afterlife healing circle may not be successful. The soul in question may be confused about crossing over or just in an unaware state and not ready to speak to anyone. Listen carefully to the inquirer's replies, and trust your intuition, those always active soul sensors. The inquirer's answers will help determine if the person is a good candidate for the afterlife healing circle. In instances of contacting the not yet born, the first question still applies: what does the inquirer hope to get out of the circle? Please do not use the afterlife healing circle to find objects, lost wills, or assets of any kind, especially of the illegal variety. Remember, just because someone has asked for the circle, that does not obligate us to conduct one for that person. Not only do we have the right to feel comfortable with the inquirer, but we fare best by establishing some sort of rapport to help ensure the success of the circle. Also, do not force the afterlife healing circle down the throat of a highly fearful person. It won't be all that helpful, because a frightened inquirer will be in a state of heavy denial, and that type of inquirer is not passive during the proceeding. After you've vetted your inquirer, choose a place to conduct the circle. Whereas the stereotypical séance is held at night, in a small, closed room that has little or no light and plenty of dark corners to hide the special effects apparatus for the faked floating horns, the mist, and the disembodied moaning and groaning, in reality, it is possible to conduct the afterlife healing circle at high noon in the middle of a field, if that time and location will make the inquirer most comfortable. We generally use the living room of a house and set the time during the mid to late afternoon. If the circle is meant as a soul rescue, it's helpful to conduct it in the place where the lost souls seem to congregate. Throughout the proceedings, we keep the curtains open. If the session is at night, the lights remain on. We are not out to scare up any nasty surprises. We arrange enough chairs in a small circle to accommodate all participants. We also put a box of tissues on the floor in the middle of the circle. They are always in demand after, and often during, the circle to mop up those healing tears. The person who issues instructions and keeps the afterlife healing circle on track is called the conductor. The conductor invites the remaining participants. Allow the inquirer to bring a trusted friend or relative if he or she so desires. The best group size for the afterlife healing circle is between 4 and 8 people total. Larger groups are somewhat unwieldy and discourage participants from speaking out about the information they are receiving from the soul in question. Participants do not need training in using the soul sensors. In fact, we try to include people who've not received any type of instruction in using their soul senses because they bring fewer expectations to the circle and thus are often more open to what does come through. But we also do our best to pick those who are able and willing to follow the 3 principles of love, connection, and self-trust. The best candidates to participate are loving and open-minded. Don't make the session more difficult by using it to try to prove something to a friend or relative who thinks any interest in this stuff is grounds for an insanity plea. Skepticism is fine. Denial, however, will hamper what we are trying to accomplish by blocking the love and therefore the information flow. Getting back to the initial questions we do and don't ask of the inquirer, remember that the less information the conductor and other participants possess about the inquirer and soul in question, the better. This is why we do not allow possible inquirers to tell us anything about the person they wish to contact. This deliberate lack of advance information helps assure the inquirer that participants received their information only from the soul in question and not from some other source. This is critical to help that rational left brain begin to trust the information the circle participants are receiving. Say as little as possible about the inquirer and the soul when inviting the rest of the participants. Just tell them someone needs the afterlife healing circle. Also make sure all participants know and understand their role during the circle as we explain it in this chapter. If the conductor thinks it will help participants relax, arrange to play recordings of Baroque or classical music while everyone arrives and gathers for the event. Anything by Bach or Pachelbel's Canon in D are good choices. The idea is to begin lifting the group's energy vibration frequency while reassuring any members with the jitters. Absolutely no heavy metal, rap, or pop music, their vibrations would be counterproductive. The inquirer always sits right across from the conductor in the circle. The conductor decides where everyone else will sit. Again, use those senses to obtain an overall impression of the different soul energies of the participants. Then try to alternate masculine and feminine energies. This doesn't mean always alternate men and women. Some males have a very gentle energy, whereas some women's energy is strong, more push than pull. The mix of the two helps balance the love energy flow around the circle. If the inquirer has brought a friend or relative, seat that person to the inquirer's immediate left. The reason for this placement has to do with the flow of love energy. The left side of the body is the receiving side, and the right side sends energy. When participants send love from their hearts, it will flow down their right arms through their right palms into the left hand of the person to their right. Love energy from participants flows counterclockwise around the circle. If the inquirer's supporter is to the immediate left, then the supporter's love is with the inquirer will feel most strongly in the flow. After seating participants, the conductor reminds them about the important part they play in the afterlife healing circle and the role of the inquirer. Keep reading for more details. Once participants are clear about what they are to do during the proceedings, ask all in the circle to join hands. Tell them to place their right palm on top of the palm of the left hand of the person to their right. Again, this is to facilitate the counterclockwise flow of love from the participants. Make sure that they are comfortable, as they may spend up to an hour in this position. The conductor then directs all present to close their eyes and focus on their breathing. Adding some basic biofeedback techniques for slowing down the breathing rate is helpful here. It's an excellent way to calm everyone and clear their minds for what's next. Once participants are calmer and their minds are cleared, the conductor may offer a simple prayer of thanks. At this point, Jana uses her soul feeling to assess the group, and in her prayer she speaks directly to any lingering uncertainties she senses in the circle members. Next, the conductor further lifts the energy of the group by asking members to imagine standing in a column of white light. They may see this light, feel it, know that they are in it, or simply understand it, according to which soul sense is strongest for each person. Jana always asks the circle members to lift their minds, hearts, and souls to their Creator, and to their invisible friends all around them. She gives them a few minutes to enjoy that feeling of connection. Next, the conductor asks participants to send out love from their hearts, down their right arms, and toward the person on their right until the love flows all the way around the circle. The conductor also asks them to use their soul senses to visualize that love or feel its vibration, to be aware that it is there or simply to understand that it is present. It is this love, which is magnified considerably by group energy and which includes the special love of the inquirer, that draws the soul to the circle and helps keep it there. This turbocharged love feels wonderful, and instantly soothes all those in the circle. Sometimes it is a little too effective, and many of them simply sit in contentment and feel little compulsion or need to speak up. They have a job to do, however. They have gathered to bring forth information and aid in resolution, and have specific tasks to accomplish, as we shall find in a bit. Now is the time for the conductor to lead all participants in calling on those invisible mentors and friends, even if it seems silly or as though it will not make a difference. It will. Always ask aloud for protection. Whatever names we use for them, whether we call them guides or angels or something else entirely, is beside the point, so long as we call on them to protect us during the circle. Guides cannot act without specific permission every time we conduct the afterlife healing circle. After the conductor asks for protection out loud, the conductor then directs each person in the circle to speak out loud a request for protection. The conductor next asks each participant's guides or guardian angels to stand just outside the circle and allow in only the souls sought by the inquirer. They'll be delighted to do so. This one simple but absolutely crucial step will make all the difference in the world. Our guide's protection eliminates spook jerks, disincarnate crazies, and even denial spirits, also known as demons, or even Lucifer himself. They'll just have to get their jollies at someone else's expense. Meanwhile, we can go about our healing mission in peace and complete safety. Amen to that. Once the requests for protection have been spoken and the love is flowing around the circle, the conductor asks the inquirer to speak the name of the soul in question. The inquirer verbalizes the soul's full name 2 times and a pet name or nickname the 3rd time. Sometimes, the soul hesitates to enter the circle because there are strangers present. If that's so, the conductor should ask the inquirer to repeat the same name sequence aloud once more. Other times, the soul is so eager to enter it doesn't wait until the inquirer has finished speaking for the first time. Usually, the soul will pass into the circle over the inquirer's right shoulder, but occasionally the entry point is different. It doesn't really matter, and often the inquirer or other members of the circle can detect the soul's entry into the circle even without the welcome from the conductor. Once the soul is in the circle, the conductor's job is to keep it there by sending even more love straight from the heart. Most souls realize they need to assure the inquirer of their true identity. They almost immediately begin sending highly personal and sometimes very specific information about themselves. If the soul in question doesn't know what to do at this point, the conductor and other participants may ask it for evidential material and explain that the inquirer needs this information. How does the soul send information? How do participants ask it questions? Through those 4 soul senses, which not only receive, but also convey thought energy that is then picked up as images, vibrations, words, or awareness by participants' own intuition. Here is where our society's general lack of trust can be an issue, but the group love energy also enhances the energy information so that it is a lot stronger and therefore easier to send and receive. Provided the conductor is comfortable and confident with the process, other participants can be less assured and still be very helpful. The work of the other participants is to verbalize what is called evidential material or trivia. It is vitally important that the conductor emphasize to all involved except the inquirer, that they are to speak aloud every single piece of information they receive without editing. Again, this is where our general inability to trust our soul senses can really hamstring our efforts, because it seems safer just to say nothing and let someone else do the talking. However, as Deb, the woman with a group of table-tipping friends, points out, if everybody sits in silence, then nothing ever happens. She is spot on. The very act of speaking out loud helps keep the energy moving around the circle and encourages the soul to provide additional specific details. Free and open expression is a spiritual right, along with free will. When they do speak up, time and again, participants have pulled information seemingly out of thin air about people or events that only the inquirer or the soul in question could have known. Very often, evidential information arrives in the form of physical sensations that can be unsettling, especially in cases of violent death or death from an illness such as cancer of the throat or lungs. The throat or chest may feel tight, or one or more of the participants may develop a pain in the head or some other area of the body. If for no other reason than self-interest, participants should verbalize what they are receiving or they will keep on experiencing the discomfort or pain. Speaking up frees them from the sensation, provided it is not theirs. Even with these instructions and reminders, participants often still hesitate to say anything out loud, which is counterproductive. Jana, for example, was taking part in the Afterlife Healing Circle many years ago and could tell that the man sitting next to her kept receiving something but was holding it back. After this happened 3 times, she encouraged him to speak up. "This is really silly," he replied hesitantly. "It just doesn't make any sense. I see a white picket fence, but it's not upright. It's standing on one end." The inquirer gasped, "Now I know it's my son." Years earlier, as a boy, the inquirer's son had taken an old piece of picket fence, turned it so that the posts were horizontal and nailed it to a tree trunk so that his dog could climb up and join him in his tree house. It was something only he and his grieving parent, of all the participants in the Afterlife Healing Circle, would have known. During her session, Clara was finally convinced of her mother's presence when one of the participants talked about seeing a field of red poppies, waving in the wind. Then another person mentioned a cross, while Clara's daughter immediately said she saw a skull. I knew it was my mother then, Clara explained. Red poppies were my mother's flower. She had them all over the house when I was growing up. And the skull of Adam forms the base of the Russian Orthodox cross. My daughter wouldn't know that. She was brought up Presbyterian. The point, as we have said before, the information the soul is sending is for the inquirer, not the participants. That is why it often seems strange to participants, and they are tempted to shift into their left brains to analyze it. Don't do that. Instead, speak up. The conductor will have informed the inquirer before the session begins to respond to each piece of information verbalized in one of three ways: yes, no, or I don't know. Sometimes the soul in question provides information that the inquirer isn't sure of or simply doesn't know but can check out later with family or friends. To head the next question off at the pass, yes, we can use the Afterlife Healing Circle to conduct crime investigations. We need one of two things for the session to be fruitful. The first is the active participation of a person with close emotional ties to the being against whom the crime was committed. The second is a request for help from the police. We have not been involved with any type of police work because local authorities, shall we say, look askance at intuitive methods of detective work. We have no burning desire to persuade them otherwise because we don't need to prove ourselves to anyone. After the inquirer has been assured he or she has contacted the right soul, he or she is emotionally ready to continue to the next stage of the Afterlife Healing Circle. This second phase consists simply of giving the inquirer and the soul the chance to talk to each other, assisted by the other session participants. What comes out as a result of these discussions is usually loving and comforting, but not always. In one instance, the Afterlife Healing Circle revealed the existence of past sexual abuse of the soul by the soul's mother, who was also the mother of the inquirer. One of the participants became so indignant that she almost disrupted the circle entirely through her energy and her comments. Try not to judge the information that comes forth, because again, that will shut down the love energy flow. Should issues arise that require follow-up, there is a different time for and way of addressing those concerns. The second part of the Afterlife Healing Circle is always very emotional, if for no other reason than the inquirer finally has some evidence that a loved one thought dead and lost forever is, in fact, still living, if not in a physical body, and very much found. Or the inquirer finally has contact with the soul of a child not yet born. The evidence of such communication is provided partly through the trivia, which are necessary to satisfy the left brain. The heart, however, is much more open to messages from the soul. As the second half progresses, inquirers often begin to pick up thoughts and especially feelings from the loved one in the circle on their own. When speaking to a child not yet born, Jana at this point encourages the parents to introduce themselves and ask the soul why it chose them as parents. The parents should also want to know what they can do to help the child fulfill his or her purpose for this coming lifetime. This will make parenting so much easier once the child is in a physical body again. Jana also takes the chance to encourage the soul to be fully present during birth to make the process faster and less painful, and to let the mother know if the fetus experiences any problems during the pregnancy. The joy of such a reunion or meeting is impossible to comprehend except through direct experience. Resolution replaces anguish. Parent meets child, and both become better prepared for the years ahead together. Tears flow freely from relief, not grief, or from the joy of anticipation. The healing spreads from the inquirer and the soul to every member of the circle. Once the inquirer and the soul in question have exchanged what they needed to say, the conductor steps in to offer a brief prayer and thanks to the guides who have helped keep everyone safe. It need not be lengthy or formal, and those who participated may also express their gratitude out loud. We maintain a long list of current and former students, clients, and friends who have volunteered eagerly to be part of the Afterlife Healing Circle whenever we hold one. They come out of love and a desire to be of service to others and are not paid any money for their time. Instead, we offer them coffee, herbal tea, soft drinks, or cold water. The time before and after the circle gives them a chance to catch up with old friends, make new ones, and chat with people who don't think all this stuff is so weird after all. Likewise, we do not charge inquirers for the Afterlife Healing Circle, although we do charge to teach people how to conduct them. Let's face it, among the public, the seance has a worse reputation than used car dealers or TV pitchmen. Some even erroneously regard the Afterlife Healing Circle as a form of devil worship, which it most emphatically is not. We avoid this issue entirely simply by never charging for the Afterlife Healing Circle and by encouraging those we train also to conduct them at no cost as a community service. This means that we have only a limited amount of time to devote to the Afterlife Healing Circle, which is one reason we wrote this book. We are hoping it will help spread a practice that can result in so much good. Remember, anyone can rig up a floating horn or an ethereal voice in the dark, but no one, however well-versed in deceptive practices, can fake the feelings, the profound and powerful sense of relief and release that surrounds and embraces the inquirer, the soul, and the other participants during the properly conducted Afterlife Healing Circle. Soulmate, this is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni Consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.